Welcome to Virgin Media's Future of Gaming. On this week's episode, we're going to be taking a look back into the past before some of you were even born, to see how the foundations for the future of gaming were laid in the 80s and 90s with the help of a brand new documentary called From Bedrooms to Billions. The film by two British filmmakers, Anthony and Nicola Caulfield, tells the often hard to believe true story of how a small group of people from around the UK helped shape the video games industry as it is today, all with their love of video games. The 2-hour documentary stars some of those pioneers who tell stories of living in squats whilst coding some of what are now considered to be classic games. We've managed to get our hands on some exclusive extra scenes. First up is an interview with the fabled man himself, Peter Molyneux, who discusses the incredible yet frustratingly difficult Populous.
It was only when I started being confronted with real problems of creating this little world, like how to get the little people moving around the coast and moving around objects, that I started laying game mechanics which made up for how incompetent I was as a coder. So a little person would come to some water and I couldn't work out how to get them around that water, so I just had the player raise the land up. That's how the game came about. It's because I was a rubbish coder. So this game kind of evolved. There wasn't really anything much like it, and this was a problem when we were taking it around to publishers, because there was, you know, you'd show the game to someone and they'd say, well, I don't understand what that's all about, you know, just go back and finish it off and maybe we'll look at it again. And it took about, I think, about 9 months to make. It was me and Glenn. Glenn was doing the graphics and I was just kind of doing the gameplay.
Forget your FIFAs and your PESs. One of our first loves was Sensible Soccer, which was created by John Hare, who also worked on some amazing titles which just refuse to die no matter how old they are, like Megalomania and Cannon Fodder.
The very first Sensible Soccer Man was just a Megalomania man with a football kit on. If you actually look at Megalomania and Sensible Soccer side by side, Sensible Soccer Men are just Megalomania men dressed up as footballers. The actual perspective of the camera is almost the same as Megalomania as well. It just kind of fell into that place and worked. I've always been a big football fan, a big Subbuteo player when I was a kid, and I like the idea of having all the teams and all the international side of Sensible Soccer was really important at the time we made it. And you know, I'm really proud of a number of things with Sensible Soccer. We were the first games company, or the first game to have black players in, for example, which sounds like a triviality now, but you used to play with John Barnes, but he was white, which just didn't look right, you know. It actually ruined the illusion of who the team was.
Before the internet and its various lovely commenters were born, video game developers often have no way of knowing what gamers would think of their games before they were released. In our final clip, Molyneux discusses the fear he felt whilst making Populous.
I think it's fair to say we really didn't have an idea of what the world would think of this game. I don't think our expectations were high, and at that time, you know, we were living in squalor. Electronic Arts did an initial run of the game. We never knew how many there was. And then they started to send it out to journalists, and then they obviously got the reaction back. They were doing all this, we weren't doing any of it. We didn't really get a feel for it. And then suddenly, some amazing things started to happen.
You can check out From Bedrooms to Billions for yourself at this year's EGX show, which will host a premiere for the documentary, and who knows, you might even get tips from some industry legends on how to make your first billion.